Jackie, some people are having trouble getting in. Like I see Helen Morris can't get in. Her, her, her phone number is Ozilla.
Can't get in.
Yeah. Alan, are you on the line?
No, I just came in through Zoom directly.
Can you forward that to Helen, please? If you ever.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Did Coco run away, Jack?
Wait a minute, let me go on mute.
Here we go.
Matt, you're okay. You're good. We're waiting for the city manager to come on.
I saw Emily.
You see
Emily's,
it?
yeah, Emily's here. Hi,
Where?
Emily.
Oh, I didn't see her. Hi, Emily. How are you? Well, Emily's here. David is here. Let's go, Jack.
Okay. Oh, did that not play? Did you all not see that? Did it play?
No.
Oh, all right. It was playing on my screen. I'm sorry. All right. Hold on 1 second.
Thank you.
You want the rest of these?
When you're trying to share, make sure that you have the share sound and video clip option
Yes,
checked.
it is. It is. Hold on. All right. Can everyone see this?
Don't see anything, Jack.
No.
No?
Jackie,
Yes.
let's just go and get started.
Okay. Work on that. Our normal technician is not with us today. My apologies.
Hey guys, welcome to our regular community forum. We're really pleased tonight to have some very special guests, to include Helen Morris, who just snuck in the back door. Hi, Helen, how you doing? But tonight we've got with us Dr. Rose, Director of the Health Department, and Miss Emily Baker, who is the Deputy City Manager, who is replacing Jim Parajan, who's out gallivanting around the world. So what I'd like to do is I'll make sure everybody knows who's here, and then we'll have some opening remarks from David, then Emily, and then we'll come back to them for their presentation and discussions. In advance, we have about 20 questions that have nothing to do with this Zoom. And David and Emily, throughout the evening, we will intersperse those questions as we go along. Does that work for you, Dave?
I am at your service.
Right, I heard that before. Why don't you introduce yourself first, David, and then we'll give Emily a chance to queue up.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm David Rose. I'm the director of the Alexandria Health Department here in the city, and very happy to be helpful tonight.
Mrs. Baker, ma'am, please.
Yeah, hi, good evening. I'm happy to be here. My name is Emily Baker. I'm a deputy city manager, and I'd like to apologize on behalf of the city manager that he couldn't be with you this evening, although he is getting some well-deserved rest. So we're happy for them there. I've been with the city for 24 years. I'm the old timer around here, and I've oversee a portfolio of the city that involves the Department of Planning and Zoning, Department of Transportation and Environmental Services, the Office of Housing, the Department of Code Administration, the Department of Recreation, Parks and Cultural Activities, Department of Project Implementation, Office of Housing, and I'm sorry, I already said the Office of Housing, the Office of Historic Alexandria, as well as I'm a liaison with the libraries and Visit Alexandria. And I'm happy to be here to talk to you this evening.
Emily, thank you for joining us. You've been hiding from us for the last 2 years, so we finally got you. Emily, one of your talking points, can you, when I come back to you, could you talk about what Jan does versus Aletha's role too, so we
Yep.
can a better understanding? Because
Be
you
happy
got
to.
equal and strong portfolios. I'm going to do something very quickly so you know who you're talking to. Jack, if you can go full screen, I guess I could do that. You have to do that. But for David and for Emily, we've got about 15 or 20 people on the line. We've got several questions that have come in before the meeting. What we normally do is we give you a chance to talk about what you do. We'll ask some questions, and then we'll record this and send it back to you later. So I'm really, really thankful for your joining us. For both David and Emily, this is your first time in the big house. So welcome. Well, David, why don't we start with you and talk about who you are, what you do in your portfolio, understanding that you've got Natalie working for you and a bunch of other guys who we see around town.
Well, sure. The Alexandria Health Department is roughly about 100 strong. And we are responsible for honestly being the strategist, the convener, a host of things around public health, but not necessarily the owner of the public health. We usually like to think about public health as a network of collaborators, not just the health department, but including public works, schools, various different providers within the community, a host of things that impact health through their impact on the environment, on healthcare, on conditions, on nutrition, on the ability to recreate, a host of things, the environment in terms of the air, water. And so we are blessed to be a part of that and be able to assist with this community's health. We have divisions that are responsible for communicable disease control, which means we investigate various different infectious disease outbreaks and conditions within the city as they come up. We also are responsible for providing some care around sexual and reproductive health, family planning for those who are uninsured and perhaps uninsurable. We also look after challenges with those who are new to our country. We do examinations of newcomers. We attend to tuberculosis treatment for those who have the infection, and in certain cases, those who have the latent tuberculosis infection, not absolute pulmonary cases. We additionally provide immunizations, and we'll be working with the schools, and I'll be speaking a little bit about that later, to assist with their efforts as best we can. But we also partner with neighborhood health and others within the city as well on certain efforts. You just mentioned Natalie Tallis and population health, which really is the home of some of that strategy, the strategizing around different public health issues, the community health needs assessment and the community health improvement plan, which are organized by our health department, but owned fully by the city. And Mr. Lomax can speak more eloquently about that than I, being responsible for making sure that we're keeping our heads straight. And I thank you, Mr. Lomax, for being our partner over these many, many years. We also have a division that is responsible for investigating various, I talked about sexual and reproductive health treatment. We also have those who are responsible for investigating and assisting with control of sexual and reproductive health issues within the city. We call those our disease investigation specialists, who go out and speak with cases, gain trust, try to develop some sort of network of who may have been impacted, and then we outreach to them as well. And so we also do education. We do outreach, education pieces. We do follow-up for those who may have social conditions. We screen for those within our clinics. We try to connect people to services, and then we follow up to make sure that those things are going on. We just started universal screening within our clinics, and we're hoping to have some good results with that in terms of linkages to care. It's always a challenge, but we're here to take that on because we cannot really improve the health unless we also improve.
So let me stop you for a minute. Where are the clinics?
Well, the clinics right now, we have our headquarters, if you will, at 4850 Mark Center Drive. The building there, we're co-located with Neighborhood Health, with DCHS and others within that area. And we also have a clinic that's established in the Alexandria City High School. Both campuses, both the Mini Howard campus, which has a brand spanking new clinic there that should be opening up. We're just outfitting it right now. We should have moved in. We may be seeing some patients, but fact of the matter is we're still getting stuff together there. But the main campus over on King Street, we're already there.
Right.
That's not just for people within the school, that's for youth under the age of 21 from across the city. They have access to those services there. It's not a full service primary care clinic. We do sexual reproductive health, family planning. We do some acute care, urgent care visits, sports, physical, things like that. But we're also linked with DCHS. And so there we have co-located mental health services as well through DCHS staff, both within our same space on the King Street campus, but across the hallway and perhaps even more expanded at the Minnie Howard campus, because it was designed to really sort of expand those services. And so that's sort of the 30,000 foot view, if you will, of what it is that we do, just to get things started.
Let me jump in real quick. You mentioned the CHAW and what you're doing with the health assessment. Alan is on the line. Can you describe what that is? And then I'll come back to you.
Well, I would really defer to Mr. Lomax, but I'll go ahead and try my best to talk about it. But basically, it's the opportunity for all Alexandrians to participate in forming the plan for the improvement of the community's health, whatever, however you define that community, because it not only includes residents, which is extremely important, but also those who come to pray, play, work, and such here. Now, all Alexandrians should have the opportunity to thrive and achieve health and well-being. And we know the community conditions, as I spoke about a little earlier, but not just the air and the water and things like that, but also structural racism and all forms of discrimination, unfortunately, impact residents' health. And so our community health assessment is a year-long process where we're looking at both data and community experiences to identify health issues and understand their causes. Now, this work will lead to the Community Health Improvement Plan, which is an actionable plan with specific strategies to address our city's biggest health issues. And so we're having our kickoff event the 1st of October, which is going to be on the at Patrick Henry Recreation Center at around 6:30. And you can come and learn more about the community health needs assessment, how it impacts you as a resident, and find ways to participate. And you can always follow us on social media to hear more about more opportunities to participate. We're on all the major social media outlets. That's Twitter or X, Facebook, Instagram, not TikTok, because of various reasons. But the first step in this assessment will be to take a very short survey, which should be launching within the week. And so you can take that survey and share it with everyone you know. There are some impacts I can talk to a little briefly later that came out of the first assessment and the last community health plan and the community advocacy that informed that plan. I don't know if Mr. Lennox, you want to expand upon that. I'm willing to cede the floor.
Well, thank you. It was, yeah, so the health assessment really lays out the foundation for development of each community health improvement plan we've been doing. So this is our fifth health assessment we've done in the city of Alexandria, and it'll be the third community health improvement plan that we've done as we move forward. Once we have all this data and everything's released, then and there's assessments with the top 10 health priorities, etc., then we'll move into the community meetings after that's released, in order to have the community look at the data and try to identify what they think are the most important health needs that need to be addressed over the next 5 years in the next community health improvement plan. The last one, the community identified housing, poverty, and mental health as the top 3 priorities in that plan. We've been working on that. We've had 21 strategies and 80 tactics in that the community identified through the process, including the community went out and through the help of the health department, there was a database that was created, a research database where community members went out to find activities and events and projects and programs that relate to the selected strategies that they did, so we could see which ones would be applicable to that community health improvement plan, which made up those 80 tactics. Everything is being done by community members and organizations. For instance, the health department, the Partnership for Health Alexandria, just help facilitate these things that are going on and monitor. And we also, if there are roadblocks to organizations to achieving some of these tactics, we look to see about how can we eliminate some of those roadblocks for them.
David, if you don't mind, I want to swing over to Mrs. Baker real quick. I'll come back to you because she's got that something on her face she wants to share. Emily, what are you thinking? Tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, I wanted to get to your question that you asked sort of about the structure of our office in the city
Please
manager's
do.
office and how we all share the responsibility of overseeing the city. So in this office, we have three, there's a city manager, of course, Mr. Parajon, but we have three deputy city managers, myself, Alethea Prudhoe, and Jan Lambert. And we have an assistant city manager, Julian Gonzalez, and we sort of split up the portfolios. And I talked to you about my portfolio, which really is largely kind of land use, development, housing, kind of quality of life departments. My colleague Leon Lambert oversees public safety and courts in his portfolio, so police, fire, sheriff, our 911, 311, and as well as a liaison to all of sort of our other court systems, the clerk of the court, and the Commonwealth's attorney. So that's sort of his primary focus. My colleague Alethea Prudhoe, she has a very large portfolio as well. She has Department of Community and Human Services as sort of the community-facing services, as well as a lot of our internal services. So human resources, IT, race and social equity, labor relations. I'm sure I'm forgetting some of those key departments. So she's sort of doing sort of that internal services as well as our community and human services. And then our colleague Julian Gonzalez, he sort of is a specialist in public-private partnerships and looking at financial investments for the city, as well as oversees our Office of Climate Action and our Department of General Services. So between the four of us, we pretty much keep our eyes on all the departments operating here in the city.
And is Coco the integrator of all the efforts, or?
She is. Coco's our chief of staff and kind of make sure we all stay in line and keeps track of these sort of like enterprise-wide issues that are going on in support of the city manager.
I guess for the audience, we sent a bunch of questions ahead of time to address. One of them was the hiring of the new police chief. Where we are on that. I know that's not your portfolio, that's Jan's. Do you have any update on that?
Yes, I can tell you that we have been doing a national search for a new police chief, and the application period has closed, and we're now in the process of sort of evaluating that and moving into next steps.
You have a presentation about housing, but I'm going to go ahead and push it forward. There's a housing shortage in our city. Did you know that?
I am aware.
That's one of the things I want to share personally was there's an effort going on right now that we want to get before you and Jim and the council around housing. And Helen Morris is on the line, who's spearheading this. So Helen, if you could come on and do your 30-second elevator pitch, I'd appreciate it.
Oh gosh, thanks Jim for the hot seat. I appreciate it. Hi Emily, how are you? I haven't seen you in a long time. So I'm Helen Morris, and I chair the board of the Alexandria Seaport Foundation. And as one of the housing issues that we see that we know is larger than what we see personally at the Seaport Foundation is housing for young adults ages 18 to 25 who are not in school and don't have a good job. And what our experience is every 6 months, we have a cohort of 8 apprentices who come in, and without fail, we find one who's struggling with homelessness in some way. One of the hard things we know is that they're not being counted very well because they're invisible. They're couch surfing. They're staying with their grandmother or an aunt or an uncle until somebody pushes them out of the house. And so their homelessness becomes a huge crisis, and by the time they've reached the Seaport Foundation, they may have made enough mistakes in their lives that they burned the bridges that they did have to find someplace safe to live. So they're living very precariously and finding someplace that's affordable, that's close in, that is a place where they also can get the support services that they need so that they can come to the Seaport Foundation and to work on time and get their paychecks and not be too tired to learn and be a hazard in the shop is something that we're dealing with. And we're very clear that understanding that that's not unique to the Seaport Foundation. So we're trying to find some solutions to that.
Yeah, well, I really,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
okay, I would say it's great to hear that you're bringing that issue forward. We do have, as Colonel Page mentioned, we have a tremendous crisis in housing affordability and availability and access here in Alexandria. It's one of our highest priorities, really, as an organization, and I know that our city council feels the same way. We are investing a lot of money in this, and we have a lot of staff resources working on this, but it's sort of a I don't want to say it's unsolvable, but it's something that's very difficult for us to get our arms around. And even as a region, we're working through this issue. We have a lot of initiatives that we are looking at in terms of providing housing affordability, and as well as working with nonprofits. We are going to be kicking off here in September an update of our housing master plan. We last created our housing master plan in 2013, and we are kicking off an update to that in September, and I have some dates I can share with sort of what the first couple of events are going to be to sort of get to kind of kick that process off. And I think this focus on the 18 to 24-year-olds or 18 to 25-year-olds is something that we should bring up as part of that. Are there unique challenges that age group is experiencing? And I think we have a lot of, you talked about location and people wanting to work, to live near where they work. We want people of all backgrounds and all age ranges to be able to live in Alexandria. And these are people who are providing services that we want and that all of our community members want to have. People who are working in restaurants and in hotels and working in the service industry and working with the Seaport Foundation. We want to make sure that we have availability of housing for people in all of these ranges. So I made a note, and I'm going to talk to our housing director and just sort of make sure that's something that we can try to think through as we're updating our housing master plan. Are there special needs? Are there special resources that we should be putting towards that? So thank you for bringing that up.
Emily,
Thanks very much.
Does immigration play a role in housing? Emily?
Does immigration play a role in, I'm sorry?
And our shortage of housing?
It does, I'm sure, and in housing affordability and also in overcrowding. And I know we have a lot of housing stock where there might be multiple families that are living in the same unit, and so those are all challenges that may be related to immigration but not necessarily related to immigration.
You wanted to share some dates with us?
Yes, let me have it in my presentation, but I can just pull that up. I don't have to go through the presentation. I'm happy to answer.
Oh, no, we got a bunch of questions for you. We can.
Yeah, I'm happy to just answer your questions.
You can
So we're having a virtual kickoff on September 18th, and all this is on the city website, and I can also send you the link. September 18th from 7 to 9 p.m. To learn about ongoing housing needs, what the assessment, and we're calling this Housing 2040 is our further master plan, and kind of talk about what the timeline is going to be in our engagement. And then on September 25th, we're having an open house from 6 to 7. This is going to be in person at Charles Houston. And then from 7 to 9, we're going to have an in-person meeting to talk about shaping the principles and goals of the master plan. So
I mean, how do we get citizens to go to the website? I mean, why would I go to the website? Is it a push or is it a pull?
We are going to be pushing this information out. Right now it's a pull, but as we start promoting these events in the next couple of weeks, we will definitely be pushing this information out. We recognize we need to be reaching people where they are, and we're not expecting you to come to our website to find out information about the meeting. We're going to be out in the communities that we work with and having all of our partners in other departments. It's not just the Office of Housing, but our planning department, our community and human services department. We're going to be working with the health department. We're going to be working with all of our partners to sort of make sure that information is out there. And so we can reach the community members that we want to reach, because we want to hear from all of our community on this process.
We have a couple of events that we're sponsoring at the schools. The kids are back in school. So if you got that kind of data, I look at the website, but I'm sure most of our parents don't. You know, the mayor sends out his notes and Jim sends out his, but if we could collectively think about a way that at least once a week, you get a push from the city council, from you or Jim, while I got you on the line, we're talking about, you mentioned climate.
Yes,
Is that your,
it
portfolio?
is not in my portfolio. It's in my colleague Julian Gonzalez, but we work very closely on that. And I looks like you've got a couple representatives from that office here on the meeting.
Yeah, Jill, are you there? Jill? Jill?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. Just in the passenger seat right now.
Okay, remember, if you get on this Zoom machine, we're gonna call on you. What do you do? Jill?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you share with us what you're doing with climate control? I guess you can't hear me, right?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm in the Office of Climate Action. As Emily shared, we're under Julian Gonzalez. I'm the Community Engagement and Climate Justice Manager. I'm new to the office. I've been here only for 6 months, and I'm trying to build my relationships with the community so we can understand better what the needs are and how can we help under our own projects related to climate.
Okay, let me stop you, dude. Dr. Rose, is there anything in your portfolio that deals with climate?
Well, the short answer is not really. However, we do have access to data. Matter of fact, we just joined the meeting with the city discussing these issues. And so there will be some probably more follow-up regarding that in terms of the city's response and our response as part of that to heat incidents. When we have that heat dome as we had earlier on in this summertime, we can look at the impacts of that by looking at hospitalizations, emergency room visits related to heat, and we can help inform with information about those individuals and things like that. And hopefully providing that data will enable better planning as to, for example, things like which populations are being most impacted. So who needs to be outreach to, where these individuals are, and in relation to various capacities that the city has to assist with cooling and other such things. And so there's the capability of the health department to be helpful with that, but it does not technically reside with us. Some of the actions are honestly, to my mind, more environmental, which would definitely not be provision of shade in various areas and some of the built environment that would assist with that. So there's a host of things that can be done, and the health department is definitely part of assisting with that in terms of data and some of the follow-up.
Can you share the three things that you and the city manager share in common, the issues you're working in partnership?
You said three things?
At least three things.
Oh, that we're working in partnership with? Oh,
Yeah.
Virtually everything. We work with the city. As I said, when we do emergency preparedness, we assist with that when there's the need to shelter individuals because there are power outages and other such things because of flooding and such. We assist with the medical needs regarding those who are being sheltered. If there's other emergency response, we do have our MRC, our Medical Reserve Corps, of volunteers that is helpful not just in our activities, but also can assist with the city when there are problems and such with emergencies. That would be just off the top of my head, but everything we do is in partnership with ACPS or in discussion with working with DCHS, with Kate Shop. And so, we try to be collaborative in most everything we're doing, including as we talked about this community health assessment. This is something we're doing in partnership with a host of different agencies that are also doing planning so that the residents are not over-surveyed or feel a fatigue. When we do our outreach, we try to coordinate not only just where we are, but the questions we ask if there's a shared information that we can do. So we, even on the planning level and administrative level, not necessarily just on programs, we try to be as collaborative as we can. And just like you asked me just now, we're hoping that when I say that we're a state agency, it's the first time that people hear it, because we really do try to be as integrated as we possibly can with the activities of the city.
From our perspective, one of the issues is having citizens understand how the city works, who does what, so the conversations are not protracted. I'll give you an example. When we talk about the new hospital, which is the magic answer for mental health beds, except there are no beds in the new hospital. And it looks like the city is not doing the right thing. Emily, you're smiling. Is that correct? Or you have the answer to that?
I was just agreeing with that that there is a lot of confusion often with what's the city's role.
Right.
You know, and I think as Dr. Rose said, we work very closely with the health department, and we sort of see them as a city department, even though they are a state agency. And with ANOVA, there's also, I think because there are overlap in programs that we support and the health department supports, and other things that the hospital does. I was only smiling because I agree there is often, it's difficult for the community to understand where those lines are.
Yeah, it's very helpful. It cuts down on the frustration. Emily, I'm going to come back to you in a minute. I've got two questions for you. One is around community engagement. Jackie has two questions for Dr. Rose. Jackie, what's your first question from the chat for Dr. Rose?
For Dr. Rose from the chat we're talking about mental health resources and what steps is the health department taking to increase access to mental health services, particularly for communities of color and the underserved populations?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is another one of those areas where it's difficult to know where the lines are drawn. Actually, when it comes to mental health and substance use disorders and such as that, DCHS, the Community Service Board, is responsible for those areas. The health department is a collaborator. And just as an example, we talked a little bit about the community health needs assessment that was last performed, and the fact that the health improvement plan that came from that had three main priority areas, with mental health as one of them. And so the health department is assisting with some of the implementation of the steps there in terms of assuring that we follow up with Mr. Lomax's group, with the various owners of those different strategies within the city. Because again, the plan has various strategies to attempt to deal with some of those issues. And then those strategies are owned by various nonprofits and other partners within the city to try to implement. And so we sort of monitor that. We try to make sure that people understand that there is a integration with your mental and your physical health when we talk about it ourselves. When we do our universal screenings within our clinics, yes, we're dealing with people, unfortunately, by body part, because we're doing family planning, we're doing sexual health. We don't provide primary care. This health department used to long time in the past, but has long since ceded that to neighborhood health as a FQHC, a community health center that the health department itself helped to organize some decades ago. And so we screen for various different issues, including mental health issues. And as I said, with our Teen Wellness Center, we have a partnership with DCHS where we have mental health providers right there on the spot within that site. And it's just for the youth that are able to be seen there. But it's just a recognition that we know that we have to try to take care of both the mental and the physical health of individuals. And so when we screen in our other clinics, as we said, at the Mark Center Drive location, we try to see about linking people to services as best we can. And then follow up with them with our community health workers to assure that those things have occurred, and if not, to see if there's a way that we can assist. We're more successful in sometimes than others. And you're right, it's very important that it's something that isn't just one-on-one therapy in a generic sense. It has to be culturally competent, it has to be language competent, and it has to be respectful of different cultures. And so that can be a problem, that can be an issue, because we know that our community is divided into a great many ethnicities, a great many cultural experiences, and a great many sensibilities. And so it's difficult at times to have providers that speak to your culture, that speak to you, that you feel comfortable with. And so knowing that, I'm sure that Kate, as far as her planning and the planning of the Community Service Board, is looking at things like that. We definitely try to share our information and data with them as they do their planning, but it's not the health department's role. And this sounds like a dodge, and I apologize for how it sounds because I'm not being very eloquent. I didn't have my coffee today, but it's for us to assist, to monitor, and to work with others who are assuring that those services are there and making sure that they are aware and taking into heart that health equity and cultural awareness, competency, humility are all part of what it is that go into any plan as we're developing services.
Jackie had a question for Emily.
I do. There are several, but the number one is about budget priorities. And what are the top budget priorities for Alexandria in the upcoming fiscal year? And how will they address the city's most pressing needs?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think this fiscal year is going to be a challenge as the economy here in Alexandria is, I would say, doing okay, but it's not great. We, a lot of our revenue, it comes from property tax, and the commercial tax base here is not strong. We have a lot of vacant office buildings, and our residential housing market has been strong and is starting to slow down. I was just talking to a land use attorney on the phone today who was telling me how she doesn't really have much work going on right now. And so interest rates high, and the way the capital market is right now, things are slow, and that affects our ability to generate tax revenue and to support our growth here, because every year things become more expensive. With that being said, there are several things that are high priority. We talked about housing. That is a very high priority for investment for the city, and I think that's in terms of supporting members of our community who are housing cost burdened, and trying to increase the housing supply. Climate change, the Office of Climate Action, that is also very high priority for us here, trying to continue and expand on the programs that we have around climate and how to make the city more resilient and how to support our community and sort of moving in that direction. Schools obviously are continue to be a priority, while the city doesn't, we have a separate school system and they have an elected school board. We do fund them, and that is our youth, and making sure that we're investing in that is something that's going to continue to be a priority. I'm sure there's others, but those are the top ones that come to mind.
Just a follow-up, if I could, on the office building, the vacant office buildings. Is that a result or a partial result of COVID, or or the new working model, or?
Partly, yes. And I think offices, more people are working remote and or hybrid, and the office, commercial people, they don't need as much space, or they don't need any space. And so that is an issue that we're seeing. And we also have some older classes of office buildings that are now obsolete. When people do want to come into an office, they want something that's more modern. So one thing that we have been focusing on is supporting the conversion of office building to housing. And that's something that the city has really been a leader in, working with property owners to make it easier to do that conversion. And so that's another tool for providing more housing in the city, and taking some of that vacant those office buildings and giving them a new and appropriate use.
Affordable is I was just going to say, affordable is kind of a loaded word depending on whose definition you're using. But were you doing any of those conversions of office buildings for affordable housing?
So we do look at trying to set aside some of those units to be affordable. And when we say affordable, you're right. We look at there's a large range of what that is. We have people with low and very low incomes. We have what we call workforce housing, which is much higher, but still a group that's very challenging to afford the rents and the home prices that are here in Alexandria. So we try to look at a range. When we do those office to residential conversions, we do have some policies in place that look at incentives for making some of those units to be affordable. And then with our overall affordable housing program, we really try to look at how to provide units that are available at all of the ranges of affordability. It used to be that the housing authority, the Alexandria Redevelopment Housing Authority, ARHA, was the sort of the sole provider of housing for very low income residents in Alexandria. Now we're seeing that there are some state programs and federal programs that help some of our nonprofit partners who are building housing, and with the city's investment, able to provide some of those units at we talk about affordability in terms of the area median income and percent of that. So typically what we have been investing in previously was in the 60% of AMI, and now we're really looking at like 30, 40, and 50%. How do we subsidize those projects so that we can make some housing affordable for people at much lower incomes.
Can you talk briefly about the West End? The West End project is complete now, correct?
Yes, so the Alexandria West small area plan, I think that's what you're asking
Correct.
me about. So this is a project that we have, it's a long range planning effort. And when we say what Alex West, we're really talking about everything west of 395. And how do we look at the development pressures that we're seeing from the property owners there? What some changes people want to make, some of the properties, largely residential properties, are we're seeing pressures from those property owners to want to redevelop, either to add more units. This is where we have for the bulk of what we would call our market affordable housing, where it's the rents are low. Not to say they're affordable for the people who are living there, but where the rents tend to be lower, and there's a lot of pressure on those residents to and a lot of fears about displacement, frankly, that are going on there. And so this planning process has involved a lot of outreach with the community, listening, and discussions about some ways and tools that we can use to help give developers additional density in return for setting aside some units that are at lower rents, and looking at what protections we can put in place for residents to help protect them against displacement. I will say in Virginia, we're somewhat limited with the tools that we have, but that is something that we are really pushing as far as we can, and looking at our legislative agenda and what we want to try and accomplish in Richmond, some changes to allow us to have more tools there. But that's a process that's been going on with a lot of input from the community. We've really tried to expand how we engage with the community, and in less traditional ways for us, instead of like you said, Colonel Page, earlier, instead of putting information on the website and having people have to come to us, we're really trying to go out in the community, having focus groups, having pop-ups, going to laundromats and other places where families are, having people who speak different languages, having materials translated in different languages, and really doing things to engage the community in those neighborhoods who we want to hear from, and we want to support what they want to do. This is their neighborhood, and so we're really trying to expand how we engage with the community. And that plan is intended to come to the Planning Commission and City Council in September for consideration.
Is that from Ebony?
I'm sorry?
Is that from Ebony Fleming or?
Well, Ebony's been helping us definitely with that outreach, and the department, our planning department, and is leading that effort. In this process for the Alex West plan, we put together a steering committee of departments that includes communications with Ebony's team, the planning department, the DCHS department, the health department. We've had people who are out in the community for engaging on any number of city issues. We've been getting their input on how we should be engaging on this particular project, and not just letting our planners, who are excellent with working with the community, but giving them the advantage of the experience that other departments in the city have in working. We've actually even given some mini grants to community organizations to help them support us in the outreach on this process. So we've really tried to expand how we are engaging with the community.
Non-attribution, we got one of those grants to help community outreach. Just observation, one of the issues we ran into, if I live on Mount Vernon in $1 million home, I don't really care about the West End. I really don't. So, and until we can make it become kind of a community effort, it's going to be a slog. I mean, because that's tax money and those kind of things. So, there's no high-end stores beyond 395. So all that city planning stuff is part of what we ran into. But Helen has done a good job with that, and she's to be commended. We've got a few minutes left. I want to make sure that we give everybody a chance to ask a few questions. Jackie has one more question for David, and then we'll go offline. Jackie, one more for Dave.
Absolutely. There's no shortage of questions for you. But one of the ones, your partnerships with the school, what initiatives do you have in place to collaborate with the schools I think you mentioned a little bit about the mental health education and prevention, but what about middle schools as well as the high schools?
Well, just to say, we meet regularly with representatives from the schools, and I mean regularly is on a weekly basis
Oh,
on a host of issues. Um, there's a weekly call that we have with them, with our nursing staff, their staff, and we talk about everything from immunizations to other issues, including things like Narcan and things like that. Uh, so we continually have collaboration with them, be it if there's an outbreak and they're doing communications with us, whether we're assisting with various immunization clinics, not necessarily within the schools all the time, but making sure that we're coordinating with them, setting up extra clinics if necessary, either extended hours or on weekends, and things like that. So in addition to having those services at the Mini Howard campus and such, we try very hard to provide immunization appointments for students and spread the word about required immunizations as well, especially this time of year, just to make sure the kids are not being held out of school because of lack of immunization. Unfortunately, making that when we have very excellent vaccination rates in general, making that move from that, and I'm just making up numbers now, from 92 to 95%, that 3% is very difficult as opposed to that change from 70 to 80%. And so making sure that we're assisting with any information that we can provide to them, with the understanding that school information is held with a different sort of a rule. There's the HIPAA rule, which everybody knows about HIPAA, but there's a FERPA rule for the schools in terms of how they hold their data. And so we have to have a data use agreement to be able to share information. And sometimes it's de-identified. And so we work with a mass of information as opposed to specifics. And so there are certain things we can and we cannot do because we try to respect the fact that this information is held sacrosanct by the school system, and we respect that. So we work within the rules that we can work with in terms of information. But as I said, we work with the schools around infection prevention. We answer staff and student family questions about health. We participate in giving them materials for their newsletters and things like that. And again, they have their own staff who are doing mental health and such. The partnership that we have with DCHS is sort of outside of the schools, even though they're co-located with the schools. This is for the youth across the city. And so those services are not just for school students, they're for any youth up to the age of 21 within the city. And so all you have to do is be a resident and be of a certain age. You can utilize those services. For the more adult, as I said, we screen within our clinics and we try to link to services. We do not, as I said, unfortunately, provide those services. But the community service board, I know, is looking at that with the understanding of some of the things I talked about earlier in terms of cultural competency, knowing there's a dearth of providers. But again, as we look at the community health improvement plan, there's an understanding that mental health isn't just therapy. There are also the conditions and societal challenges that go into one's mental health. And so part of the plan, because it's around transportation, it's around poverty and some of the other issues, and housing. These are ways of hopefully environmentally supporting one's mental health, stress levels, anxiety, those adverse situations that happen that cause stress when you're very young and go on to produce situations of adverse mental health because you're trying to cope, you're trying to survive, you're trying to deal with a situation where your responses in your body make sense because you're responding to that stress. You have a certain stress, adrenaline for changes that happen within you. But unfortunately, that response isn't necessarily useful in schools. School is not a threat, but you're constantly being tuned to threats. You're constantly being tuned. I use this as an example of where adverse childhood events lead into some of these challenges around mental health, lead into the challenges of mislabeling, of misunderstanding of things. And so if we can deal with some of those social issues, we can improve mental health moving forward. So it truly is sort of a global thing that we're trying to do. But in terms of services, that's where the CSB and DCHS are more in line with assisting with providers within the city.
And David, can you talk about vision, the problem we have with glaucoma and vision in the city?
Well, I know that I know this is a thing that we're keenly interested in assessing more about between dental, vision, and hearing services within the city. And I know that we're looking at ways that we can do more assessments to see exactly what the issue is. We know that we have challenges, again, with many specialists because of insurance, because of the lack of density of providers within a certain geographic area and people's ability to get to them, that there can be challenges with that. I know that we've assisted and we've co-located with various events that have been held that have been looking at glaucoma. I know that we did, as an example, provided some immunizations in some of those places, in addition to other educational things. And we try to do assessments around things that can lead to that, like diabetes, and trying to assess information that people have about that, what they know about it, what their own experiences are with it, to see if we can inform some chronic disease programming that we may be able to do in terms of prevention. And so providing those services first comes down to us assessing those services. What do they look like? And so we definitely have been in conversation about that. How can we do some assessments? Who can we partner with to do that, to really get a deeper dive into what the situation is across the city? I know that our population health manager, Natalie Tallis, is very interested in this. And I agree with her. Some of these areas, particularly around dental, as just an example, or pediatric dental in particular, are areas where we can do some more assessment and perhaps do some more informing of solutions moving forward, with the citizens involved in helping us form those solutions, if at all possible.
We have a guest from Prevention of Blindness with us this evening. Karen, you there?
Hello, yes.
30 seconds, blindness and Black men and community health.
Our area leads the country in the prevalence of of glaucoma. And half the people with glaucoma don't realize they have it. And so our organization is very interested in going out and talking with organizations about glaucoma and screening, and also giving having community vision events where we bring in volunteer doctors. Our first one of the year is going to be September 19th, I think.
Yes, 19th.
This year, and so we're very excited about that, and we're working with Jim and also with senior services of Alexandria to pull that together at Cambridge House. And so that's one way, and then we'll be doing another one in February, again with CCNA and a whole host of other community partners.
Karen, before you go further, Emily, this is for you and Dave. On the 1st of February, we're trying to do, because it's Black History Month, it's a chance to look at issues around events. We're trying to hold it so we can look at diabetes, obesity all together. We've done it before. So if you can mark your calendar for the February 1st, and at either at Charles Houston or Patrick Henry. And what I'm getting at is, we talk about it all the time, is holding that date open so we can get more people there. Karen's organization provides the glasses for free. It doesn't cost us anything, just the coordination. It's a wonderful partnership. But let me acknowledge that Annette Hickson is on the line from the Lions Club, and this is a joint effort with Prevention of Blindness and the Lions Club. So I just want to put that date out there so we can mark it down. And David and Natalie and her crowd have always been a big help with this too, by the way. I'm sorry, Karen, back to you.
That's okay. And it's especially important in February because African Americans are 5 times more likely to be impacted by glaucoma, and the age of risk begins at age 40, whereas for other races, it begins at age 60. Right during the sandwich years are the year when people have no time to go and get their eyes checked, is exactly when people need to go and get their eyes checked, because we're in this golden era of glaucoma treatment. And if we find it early, you can forestall or greatly slow vision loss.
They went into school, the nurses will walk up and say, "How can I get glasses?" And Karen and her crowd always come through for us. We've got several people on the line, and what I want to do is make sure that you feel part of the discussion. So very quickly, if you have a question or comment for Emily or David, just raise your hand. We can start with Andrea. Do you have something? I guess not. Chris Brown, anything? Chris? Danita, you have anything? Helen Morris.
Can
Yeah.
Jim, excuse me, I just figured out how to unmute. This is Andrea Hirsch. Um, I I guess my big question has more to do, I think, similar to Dr. Rose about variables related to prevention, specifically for mental health. And my biggest question is about what services beyond traditional mental health treatment do we have in the city for youth? Whether that is peer support, community wellness activities, and how much, if any, emphasis is put on that through rec centers, after school kinds of activities.
Well, I can jump in and speak a little bit to that. We do
Right.
have a pilot program that we started this year to look at rec centers. And we have we're providing sort of mental health provider in the rec centers to do some programming and working with the kids after school. And that program is still evolving, but it has been very popular with the students. And so we are looking at how do we go to where the youth are to provide some of those services. It's not certainly like one-on-one counseling, but more programming and peer programming and types of things that are available in the rec centers.
Hang Andre, let's be fair to the other crowd too. I can come back to you, Andre. Hold that thought. Mary Lee has a hand up. Mary Lee. Mrs. Anderson.
Chris is unmuted.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'm unmuted. This is Chris. So I think that the city does a remarkable job of working through rec centers and all, but I'm worried about those young people who are disconnected, the disconnected youth, those who have dropped out of school, those who are in the behavioral health or juvenile justice or child welfare systems. Are there special efforts to reach those populations of young people?
Yes, we do have some mentoring programs that are geared specifically toward youth that are maybe juvenile justice involved. And we are looking at how we are going to partner that. We are in the process of partnering that with our recreation department to really expand the reach of that program and how we reach more youth. And what are some ways to be looking at that? So yeah, that is something that we are actively working on.
Thank you. Mary Lee.
Yeah, sorry about that, Jim. Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on Karen's comment about the glaucoma screening event that we've been facilitating. It's actually at Claridge House over in the west end of town, and to thank them for already conducting a couple of glaucoma screenings there. We've been targeting the Amharic speaking population in Alexandria, which is a really large immigrant population right behind the Spanish speaking population, and have gotten great support not only from the prevention of blindness, but also from the health department. So Dr. Rose, I just want to give a shout out to your staff who have been coming in there on a regular basis with one of your staff who's a native Amharic speaker. We also have someone on staff. And we've really been able to connect that population to support services that they were not even aware were available to them, despite the fact that they've lived here for decades, some of them. So it's something that we're really proud of, and we appreciate the support we're getting from both health and POB.
David, let me piggyback on that. From your team and from the city's team, they're very supportive of the activities that we have in the city. So they're always there with your staff, and we really appreciate it. Kelvin.
Yes. My question is for Emily. I'm Kelvin. I'm a real estate investor here in the city now. And I just had a quick question. In the same way that you set aside a certain number of units as affordable housing for new developments, is there any type of either grant or loan set aside for minority developers here in the city, especially ones that are focused on creating affordable housing?
That's a great question. We do not in our funding have money that is set aside for minority developers, although some of the organizations that we partner with, I know that Amazon, for instance, has a pot of money that they set aside with their headquarters, and being constructed here in Arlington County. They set aside a certain amount of money for affordable housing investment, and I do believe that they may have a percent of that is that is targeted for minority-owned developers, and that's something we can work. Our Office of Housing, if you want to follow up with me or follow up with our Office of Housing, can kind of help either connect you to that or make you aware of what we're aware of in terms of programs that are geared specifically toward that.
Sure. Can I have one quick follow-up question? Do I have time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Awesome. I do have a meeting next week with their name skips me at the moment. Yes, exactly. So on the 29th schedule there. So I do have a leg in there. My follow-up question is this, specifically regarding single family rentals. I mean, they've outpaced the growth of apartment rentals since the financial crisis, and they're projected to outpace rental housing by 1.5% over the next 1.5%. I'm sorry, 150% over the next 5 years. And because of that, institutional investors have been scooping up single family renters left and right. Have you seen that here in the city of Alexandria? And if so, is there any type of plan to try to keep our single family rental properties within local developers' hands instead of going to big institutional investors?
I am not aware of trends of that sort of trend. That's not to say it's not happening. I do know that we are doing a lot of work around short-term rentals. And so to the extent that some of these these institutions are buying, or big corporations are buying up these single family homes to use them as short-term rentals, we are really trying to look at how we monitor that. There is an increasing amount of revenue that the city gets from those rentals, and I think that that's a growing area. So that is something that it could be related to that, but I have not heard specifically about that issue.
Okay.
Chris, you had something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask if Alexandria has tapped into the supportive housing strategies and monies. I work at the national level with the Corporation for Supportive Housing, and I'm wondering if we've tapped into those resources here in Alexandria.
Yes, we have, and that's something that our Office of Housing is partnering with DCHS on. How do we provide those supportive housing services? So because you're right, it's not only about providing housing. There is a lot that goes to keeping people housed.
To the guests, it's 10 after 7. Yeah, 10 to 7. Couple things. One, for our guests, these sessions we try to keep for an hour to be respectful of people's time, but we don't pretend to have all the answers, but we do have all of the good guests. So what we agreed to do for this session was, the first goal was to find world peace. We didn't do that one yet, but the ultimate goal was for us to get to know each other on a personal basis, so that when you see Emily on the street, you can have that good conversation with her, or with Jan, or with Alethea, and with Alan. So that part is successful. There's some things we didn't mention tonight. We didn't talk much about race and equity and that integration between that and mental health. That we have a series of other forums that we intermittently talk about how those things connect: small business and race, transportation and equity and obesity. So these are ongoing series, and I'm looking at who our guests are. I want to make sure that I didn't ignore anybody. So if you have anything you want to share with us, please raise your hand in the Zoom thing, hit the unmute button, and I'll go to you. So I'm looking at Danita, I'm looking at Gall, Helen, I've got you. I've talked to Dr. Rose, who's been so gracious to spend time with us. Karen, I got you hooked up. Andrea, Alan is with us. Who is co-host? Oh, that's me. So does anybody have anything else they want to share? We haven't heard your voice, please.
Mary Lee, do you have
Mary
your hand up?
Lee? Mary Lee? Mary Lee? Alan, you're responsible for Mary Lee.
Jim, I'm fine. I just hadn't taken my hand down. Sorry about that.
Okay, all right. Mary Lee, you had a question, a common question for Emily about community engagement. What was that question?
No, I did not.
Well, I do.
Well, yeah, I had a feeling you might, but you go right ahead.
Emily, where are we on the community engagement efforts for September?
I'm sorry, the community engagement efforts of September.
We have an event coming in September.
Oh, that is something that our Office of Communications, Ebony, is leading on, and I know that she's working to pull that together. I'll have to get an update from her.
Well, I talked to her today. She said you had the answer, so she wasn't being truthful. Hey, to all of you, let's first thank you, Dave and Emily, for joining us. Emily, any words of wisdom before we leave?
Just stay involved. I really appreciate it. And, I think that this housing master plan, we're really going to need the help of all of you to be engaged and help get the word out and help us work through that. So I look forward to partnering with you all on that.
Thank you for joining us. Dr. Rose, sir.
Well, I want to thank everybody for having the opportunity to share a little bit about our department in our efforts to collaborate with the city. I just want to call out the Children and Youth Community Plan that DCHS put together. There were some questions here around the youth and mental health. I commend people to please go look at their website to see the good work that is being done there and the report cards that are there, so you can see about progress, to see what they are doing to speak to the mental health of youth and those special populations that you just talked about in terms of those who were involved with the criminal justice system as well.
Let me close on a personal note. We had a Black Men's Health Expo in June, and that was the first time I got to spend any quality time with Dr. Rose. And I was so enthralled by who he is, what he brings to the city. He made a promise that he'd become even more involved in everything that we do. So what we've done, we've carved out a permanent seat for you, Dave. Anything we have, the first seat to the right is always for you. So you don't have to sit in it. You don't have to.
And as long as it's a Barker lounger for this time of night, that's fine.
Okay. So we will close, guys, by saying thank you for spending time with us. Emily, tell Jim to enjoy his vacation. David, we'll talk to you later. Everybody drive carefully. Jackie, and can I ask them real quick? Jackie and Chris, please. And Cynthia.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you,
all.
everyone.
Thank you, Alan.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Coco.
Hang on.
Take care, Dave. Doll. Thoughts, real quick, guys. It's time for me to speak at the national convention. I'm up next. I'm following Beyonce. So
Yeah, that's why, yeah. We got some
what you got?
TV to watch. I think it was good this was good for me. It certainly was good in understanding who these people are and at what level they need to interface with nonprofits, etc. I'm starting to, my daughter just started at DCHS.
Oh, she did.
She did. She moved to DC Health Department, and she's going to be in the Division of Chronic Disease. She
Wow.
doesn't know what the mandate's going to be at this point, but I'm beginning to understand more that the Department of Health kind of funnels the data and monitors the data that so many other agencies, the other agencies are the ones responsible for providing the service.
She was working for Neighborhood Health before, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
Go
good
with
for
it.
her. Tell her we said congrats.
Oh, yeah, that's great. But my point is that I'm starting to understand that a little bit more, that the health departments, like DCHS, is really the monitoring organization and the recommending organization to the service providers.
Andre,
And there's,
the health department has about 150 people. Kate Garber has about 1,000.
what, say that again?
Kate Garber has about 1,000 people working for her. The health
Yeah.
department has 150. Yeah, go.
You're on
No,
mute.
it's,
Go.
I'm not on mute. I just
Sorry,
was
I'm in
thinking.
my kitchen. Hold on, I'm gonna move
Oh.
my computer because I'm making dinner and trying to get a better night's sleep than I drove. I got home from driving my daughter to Norfolk for college at like midnight last night, and then woke up at 5. So fake. But I'm very energized after our lunch today and after tonight's meeting. Mostly that I really feel like Alexandria is a place that really wants to always be improving and always be doing better by its people, and for the community. And I really appreciate that tremendously, more and more the longer that I live here, the longer that I start, meeting all these and, people who really make it all happen, and also see how they all interconnect with each other and collaborate and share information. And it makes me very optimistic that there's a lot of opportunity there. And it's really inspiring.
A quick question. Somebody took my crab cake out of my briefcase. Who did it?
It wasn't me. I don't eat crab.
Somebody took it. I came home and there's nothing in my
Kosher.
bag. Chris, what do you have, Chris?
I think both meetings today were good. I also had a meeting at the library today that I'll tell everybody about on Monday. But I do think that the city is trying its best and doing a good job at working together. I think our meetings are good. I just always struggle with how do we take them beyond us. I think that again, posting it on the website is probably not enough. So how can we get it out more so people can see, they can watch what we just went through tonight.